So our access point frameworks are arranged like standards documents, right? They're content areas. You have math, you have English language arts, and you have science. Separating each grade are sort of a small mini map of the standards we sampled. I think this is helpful for many reasons. One, when you start talking with your general educators or administrators, it shows you exactly where the standard came from, so they can have a point of reference. Two, it's helpful for you to have a point of reference if you want that. This is where this came from, and it fits into this larger overarching picture. And three, it just separates the grades out. It's a piece of paper. And it lets you know where they came from. So geometry, that's the Common Core standard, and it happens to be G.1. So what worked best in number sense was NS.5. So you can know if you look through all the 6th grade standards, like where to go, where those sit in there. And if you looked at statistics and probability, it's number 5, and expressions and equations is number 7. So we didn't say you have to do all 1 through 7. We just said this number 7 works the best. You may have seen this graphic before, and if not, I'm going to talk you through it. This is the first time you're seeing a whole framework, so I'm going to let you know exactly what this looks like. So they are all exactly the same. So there's complete and total consistency across all grades and all content areas. They are all laid out with the content area at the top and the grade. This is English language arts, so it has strand. That's just the organizing structure. So if you take a look, you start all the way over on the left with the Common Core State Standard. That is a general education standard for 4th grade reading literature. Next to it is the essential element. Those were derived from a consortium group with the University of Kansas, and we're using them. So from that, we built 3 access point frameworks that come here. So we have an entire framework with 3 access points that are associated here. So 2 things about them. 1, they're built on an expanded web's depth of knowledge. So if you think about it, you start with students can utilize a concept. They can do something. If you move away from that a little bit, you decrease the complexity. You can understand the concept. And most initially, you can identify the concept. So they're built to have consistency across that space. English language arts, math, and science. The most complex will be closer to the standard. Then you'll have an intermediate, and the less complex will sort of be your entry point over on the right. Doing this work was a really amazing experience. We worked both with national test developers, and then we also worked with state-based stakeholders. So we worked with special educators and general educators from across our ESDs, across our districts, Washington School for the Deaf, and higher ed. So we really made sure that we had the appropriate people sign off on them, give feedback, review them, so we could feel good going forward with all of our pieces. The next graphic you see also looks at this instructional spectrum, and then I want to say the assess spectrum. I'm going to talk you through this one. It's okay that you don't see it. It's to give you the idea. For math and English language arts, there are 5 boxes. We are most concerned with these 3 boxes. The other ones give us sort of an orienting space. I'm going to read these to you. The Common Core Standard, 6th grade mathematics, the number system. So always laid out the same, is understand that positive and negative numbers are used together to describe quantities having opposite directions or values. I'll stop there. You get the idea. Okay. The essential element is understand that positive and negative numbers are used together to describe quantities having opposite directions or values. Okay. That's still a pretty high-level space. So what we've done is we've built that out and said, in the more complex, students will determine the distance from 0 to a given point in a number line. So they're using the concept, right? The middle one is students will identify a real-world number line, like a thermometer, right? And the most initial level, the less complex, is students will identify a model of 0. So we have an entire spectrum. So one of the first things to remember, and I know this is a flip for us in Washington, this is different, is that this is an entire spectrum of standards, statements of knowledge and skills. This is not a measurement here. The other thing to think about is if all of our children could do all these things at the beginning of 6th grade, they should be done with 6th grade and go to 7th grade. So when you walk in the door in 6th grade, if all the students knew all the 6th grade standards, they'd be done. So these are ideas of saying, across 6th grade, These are some knowledge and skills across the spectrum that we want our students to be working on. Science is laid out identically, except there's no essential element, because those were built off of the Common Core. So it runs all the way to, so remember for us, science is still our state-based standard. So we still have the same kind of layout up top of content, grade. And then for us, this is state-based language, we have the organizing structures are essential academic learning requirements. They're our ELRs. And this one happens to be systems. And then again, through our organizing structure, our standards, we have the performance expectation. And then we have our 3 levels of complexity. So more complex, kind of tagged closer to the standard is, given a system, the student will identify a number of parts. In the middle level, given a whole system and a part, the student will identify which is the whole and which is the part for science. And then in the very initial, student will differentiate between a system and a non-system.